Ladies and gentlemen, welcome! Have you ever wondered what would have happened if a whole country was run like a private family business, but instead of selling products, they just own everything? Well, wonder no more, because today we're taking you to a place where the government doesn't just rule, they own the land, the businesses, and maybe your grandma's backyard too. Corruption, money laundering, deals? Every country has those, right? But here, we don't just have a mafia. It evolved up to a next level, and now the mafia has a country. With no further ado, let me welcome you to Bulgaria.
Не вие сте ни подпалите, а ние вас ще подпалим, ако се опитате да попречите.
Here in Bulgaria, we don't just follow global economic rules, we set them. Forget capitalism, forget socialism. We've mastered a very exclusive model where state resources take the shortest possible route, from the budget straight into the private bank accounts. Some may call it corruption, but we prefer the term streamlined efficiency. So if you ever wondered to see what a 100% privatized country looks like, I promise you, you're gonna love this. Because today we're diving headfirst into an endless ocean of...
bribery, embezzlement, money laundering, fraud, corruption, nepotism, cronyism, tax evasion, insider trading, obstruction of justice, abuse of power, election rigging, suppression, perjury, misappropriation of funds, extortion, racketeering, kickback, influence peddling, conflicts of interest, falsification of records, illegal surveillance, human rights violation, misuse of public resources, cover-ups, conspiracy, intimidation, blackmail, treason, espionage.
Now, you might be wondering, how did we get there? Was it like an avalanche of bad decisions? Well, my friends, today to truly understand the masterpiece of mismanagement, we need to hop into our time machine and take a trip.
Darkness for centuries. I wondered if there was still war being waged on the ground above me. If man would still exist on Earth when I saw the sun again. The centuries rolled by. I put my trust in time and waited for the rock to wear down around me. I was free again. Thousands of centuries had passed, but the Earth had stayed green. There was no winter, no wars. Had man finally learned to control both the elements and himself? I had to stop and find out.
Yes, the moment when people thought that they were finally free, only to realize later they just changed the label on the same old product. Because as history has taught us, you can change the system, repaint the walls, and swap the flags, but if the same old people keep holding the keys, don't be surprised when the doors lead to the same old mess. So please welcome to 10th of November 1989. A day so historic that even the politicians had to pretend that they were surprised. Bulgarians, after 45 years of state-run socialism, had finally had enough. People started protesting, demanding democracy, freedom, and, believe it or not, actual food on the supermarket shelves. Crazy, right? Meanwhile, behind closed doors, Todor Zhivkov, the longtime leader of Bulgaria, was casually being gently escorted out of power by his own party members. You might ask, why? Well, pretty much because when your boss starts making decisions that even your corrupt friends find inconvenient, it's time for a corporate restructure. So please welcome Petar Mladenov, a man who in classic Bulgarian fashion will later be caught on tape suggesting he roll in the tanks on protesters. You know, just the usual problem-solving method back in the 80s. Now imagine yourself living in that era, tired of the same old communist regime, want something fresh, modern, and totally not the exact same people in power. Introducing the Bulgarian Socialist Party. This time with 10% more democracy. Yes, folks, the Bulgarian Communist Party, BCP, realized that communism was out of fashion, so they did what every failing business does. They rebranded, just slapped on a new name, BSP, and problem solved. Same politicians, same shady deals, but now with a fancy multi-party democracy sticker on the box. With Zhivkov gone and democracy on the menu, the Union of Democratic Forces SDS appeared full of hopes, dreams, and fresh revolutionary optimism smell. But here's the thing, Bulgarians weren't just hungry for democracy, they were literally hungry. The economy was crashing, inflation was rising like politicians' promises before an election, and people start wondering, is this capitalism or just like daily life robbery with extra steps? Switching on from a planned economy to capitalism is like jumping out of a plane with a figure-it-out-yourself parachute. But with no more details, please welcome to the 90s. Literally the best time.
We are insured with this too?
Where the economy was so bad, people started bartering potatoes for electricity bills, and bread lines became Bulgaria's hottest social event. Banks collapsed, entire industries vanished, and organized crime became the country's most efficient business model. You weren't a real businessman in Bulgaria unless you had a couple of black SUVs, a questionable security company, and personal interest in negotiating tactics involving baseball bats. The government? Well, let's just say they were very busy selling state-owned assets at discount prices to mysterious businessmen with gold chains and earrings, and they were making sure they keep Bulgaria in good shape with its democratic transition. Yeah, right. So if you ever wondered why Bulgarians today have a permanent trust issues, it is because they've seen things. They survived the 90s. They literally lived through democracy's beta version. But hey, at least now they got to choose who scams them. And that, my friends, was our brief little transition from communism. But what did it give birth to exactly? From whom does the new generation learn and get the wannabe model? The ideal and the utopia of the perfect man? Well, from the same guys that were killing, stealing, and robbing normal citizens and old people's pensions. Literally, I still have friends of mine repost and upload pictures of mafia members, and they're idolizing them as true heroes, and basically the nowadays men are nothing compared to these truthful guys back then. Just the most legendary cultural phenomenon in the region now has a new modern and popular look called the Balkan hustle. You see, in the Balkans, people don't just survive, they adapt. The 90s economic collapse may have wiped out industries, but don't worry, out of the ashes rose a new class of self-made entrepreneurs. Why work 9 to 5 when you can rent a Lamborghini for a day, take some selfies, and sell an online course becoming rich overnight? Business plan? Flashy Instagram profiles? Yes! If you don't drive a BMW, are you even a man? No. you're just a pedestrian with dreams. Let's not forget the true measure of success. Dodging Interpol while flexing in a music video, riding with 200 km per hour on a highway with allowed 140. Sell courses on how to be a real man. Every proper Balkan businessman must have a passive income strategy. And what better way to convince young men that their ex will still regret leaving them if they just buy you or become an alpha male package. In any case, you might also want to consider finding a career in security, aka Balkan Mafia internships. However, not everyone can be a TikTok hustler. I mean, come on. Some go into the time of becoming a business consultant where your only job is to stand outside a club wearing sunglasses at midnight and just beat people close to death just because they looked at you for 0.0001 second. Yes, unfortunately, that's a rare practice to the security in the clubs, especially at the summer season. But let's switch to the women's part a little before we became too dramatic, shall we?
Коя е най-баналната свалка, която са ти правили? Действай!
Why would you study when you can perfect the art of selfies and let fate and Instagram filters do the rest? Step 1. Make sure your lips are bigger than the Grand Canyon. Step 2. Fake designer bags that are so good even Louis Vuitton himself would be confused. Step 3. Take a picture in front of a yacht, preferably the one that belongs to a guy you met 5 minutes ago. Voila! You are a true Bulgarian influencer that young girls would literally die to live the life like you do. Success? Just one babe DM away. On the side of dating in the Balkans, it isn't just about love. It's always about horsepower. If he doesn't drive a BMW, what's the point? No BMW? No number. Audi? Maybe if it's an RS model. Volkswagen? Am I a peasant? Now let's not forget, a real Balkan queen does not split the bill. They are independent young women who can provide for themselves, who will never break their word and will never make themselves look stupid. I've been literally having a conversation with a very famous pop folk singer, and this is how our conversation went. So I texted her that she's very beautiful, she replied back that I'm also very beautiful, and all of a sudden she decided just to block me out of nowhere. I have no idea why. Forget Hollywood, the true dream is to be a singer-performer who must be able to pout convincingly for 4 minutes straight, bonus points for dramatically throwing a glass of whiskey at your ex-boyfriend who naturally wearing sunglasses indoors. If a Chalga singer hasn't written a song about you yet, what are you even doing with your life? If you don't know what Chalga is, we will make a quick overview over to that one also later in the video. But here comes the most difficult part. Every Balkan woman faces a crossroad in her life.
Monica, you have reached the threshold. Today, you turn 20, and now the journey is truly yours. You have been granted a rare privilege to choose the path that will shape the rest of your life. Each step forward will echo far beyond this moment, but beware, there's no ordinary birthday. We will not see what lies ahead. No spoilers, no maps, only choices. You must choose gift number 1 or gift number 2. One will lead to light, the other into shadow, but both will define who you are and meant to become. So Monica, tell me, what will it be? What will you choose? There's no going back, so please tell me, what would it be?
Okay, I will choose. Just leave me alone. You're kind of freaking me out.
Just choose something quickly. I still got stuff to do. You're not the only one for today.
Number 1. I pick number 1.
Fine. Let's reveal the destiny behind the box.
Either way, the goal remains the same: VIP tables, unlimited moet, and always sitting in the front seat of a sport car. Because if you were personally welcomed by this guy, who would resist him? I mean, just take a look at this male gold label standard. Mwah! Perfect. Just aim to make the most of it. And now, the music. Unfortunately, I would wish to add some pop folk bangers, but YouTube will just copyright and delete my video, so we're gonna try something else.
Ще я сложа на матрака, тази кака, мамата си трака, ще ме вкара в батака. Тази кака, мамата си трака, ще я сложа на матрака, тази кака, мамата си трака, ще ме вкара в батака. Тази кака не е на диета, тази кака не е на диета, тя си хапва 5-6 мезета. Тя си хапва 5-6 мезета. Тя ми вика, дай ми парички. Тя ми вика, дай ми парички. И си прави своите игрички. И си прави своите игрички.
What is a Balkan lifestyle without chalga? If you by any chance are wondering what the is that, according to Wikipedia, chalga, often referred to a pop folk short, popular folk or ethno-pop short for ethnic pop, is a Bulgarian pop folk music genre. Chalga or pop folk is essentially folk-inspired dance music genre with a blend of Bulgarian music, Bulgarian ethno-pop genre, and also primary influence from Greek, Serbian, Turkish and Arabic, as well as American hip-hop. Quite a rich description for a music genre, right? That is pop folk, turbo folk, whatever you call it, it is a national treasure. Preslava, Aziz, Galena, icons. Every song it's about revenge, luxury and proving your ex was a mistake. If you haven't screamed alelele fuck at 4 AM, have you ever experienced life? I would be eager to play you this song right now, but since YouTube is very strict about it, we'll remove my video immediately, so I'm sure you can find it yourself if you haven't heard of it already. But one thing is for sure, this video song is having over 170 million views in YouTube. It's definitely quite popular. There's nothing like a summer night at sunny beach where reality fades with bass shakes your soul, and for a few hours, the place you are, the way you feel, is the only essential thing that matters in life. Especially for youth and teenagers. Basically, everyone is free to do whatever, wherever, whenever. Good, we live in a democracy. Alright, let's refocus. We got a little sidetracked by the beauty of the Balkan culture. Totally worth it though. But now let's get back to the main topic. Let's meet the stars of our show. Simeon Saxko-Borgotsky, or as written in internet for any unknown reason, Simeon Saxko-Borgota. The man who managed to go from exiled prince to a prime minister, proving that in Bulgaria history doesn't just repeat itself, it takes a weird iconic turn every few decades. First, let's talk about his brand. A monarch who ran for office in Republic and actually won. He promised Bulgarians a better life in 800 days because apparently he thought he was wizard instead of a politician.
Не по-късно от 800 дни прочутото българско трудолюбие и предприемчивост ще променят живота.
Fast forward 800 days, and while some people were still waiting for the magic, others were already packing their bags for Spain, Germany, and the UK. His economic policies? Let's just say the people became rich, just not the people voting for him. Meanwhile, his family managed to reclaim royal estates, which is impressive considering Bulgaria had abolished the monarchy decades earlier. Imagine being evicted from your palace only to come back years later and say, actually, I still own this. And then, just like a monarch who never really wanted to be a politician, he quietly faded away, proving that sometimes even kings must learn that power in democracy is way harder than ruling by divine right. But hey, at least he had better ending than some of his royal cousins in Russia. Sergei Stanishev can be definitely described as the man who took the wheel of Bulgaria's government and immediately steered into the fog, hoping no one would notice. A true politician acrobat balancing between socialism, European integration, and the traditional Bulgarian art of everything looks fine on paper. Let's start with his rise to power. He became the youngest prime minister in Bulgarian history, which sounds impressive until you realize that being young apparently doesn't mean being good at your job. He was handed the government like a fresh diploma, but instead of innovation, we got a masterclass in controlled chaos. His economic policy was like giving a credit card to a drug addict. When he came in from the EU and when he went somewhere, roads, hospitals, schools, who knows? But what did grow? Bureaucracy and corruption rankings. Transparency? Well, let's just say the only thing transparent was how little changed. Then came the European Union membership in 2007, a moment of hope. Bulgaria was finally in the club with the richer countries. But under Stanishev's watch, Brussels quickly realized that giving Bulgaria EU funds was like giving your irresponsible cousin a loan. You just know you're never getting it back. Suddenly, frozen EU money and corruption scandals became his party's official sponsors. His exit from power was as smooth as a ladder without brakes. Protests, scandals, and economic downturns all became part of the Grand Stanishev's experience. But don't worry, he felt upwards and somehow became president of the Party of European Socialists. Because nothing says European socialism like a man whose party let oligarchs run wild while average Bulgarians struggle. But at least he proved one thing. In Bulgaria, you don't need to be good at governing, you just need to have good connections, which is a very important thing in nowadays society. Quick ad. Actually, once I was traveling on the same plane with him. When we were escorted with the bus to the aircraft, he was standing literally right next to me. Boyko Borisov, the man, the myth, the walking embodiment of the phrase Bulgaria deserves better, but this is what we've got.
Това щърки ли са?
Да.
Дойдоха щъркелите?
A former bodyguard turned politician, proving that in Bulgaria the career ladder has no logic, only improvisation. Let's be honest, Borisov's political career reads like a mafia movie, except the script is written in broken Bulgarian and half the cast mysteriously disappears. He started as Todor Zhivkov, the long-lasting communist leader, bodyguard, then he decided to guard the entire country. His first years as prime minister felt like a testosterone-fueled action movie, always in leather jacket because that's how you show authority in Bulgaria, constantly inspecting highways as if asphalt was the only thing holding the country together, giving interviews where his strategy was insulting reporters while pretending to be a humble servant of the people. His favorite word was stability, which in practice meant stabilizing his own power while everything else crumbled. Bulgaria's economy? Stable, in last place in the EU. Freedom of speech? Stable, right next to the autocratic regimes. Corruption? Stable, at a world record levels. Meanwhile, every new scandal was dismissed with the legendary Borisov excuse: "Аз не знам, аз не се меся, аз съм прост и вие сте прости, за това се разбираме."
Абал.
And let's not forget the leaked tapes and the photos, loads of cash, gold bars, and a sleeping Borisov in palace-like bedroom. When asked for explanations, his answer was basically deepfakes, conspiracies, I'm the victim.
About.
Bulgaria's leader caught in the most suspicious-looking setup ever, and he still acted like the innocent guy in a crime movie.
About.
Resignations? He did that 3 times, but like a cockroach in an apocalypse, Borisov always survives. Each time he left, the political scene looked around nervously and suddenly he was back. The man treats resignations like seasonal allergies. Annoying, but never serious. Now, even after losing elections and sinking his party's reputation, he still lurks in the background waiting for his next comeback tour, like an aging rock star. In the end, Boyko Borisov's rule was a never-ending cycle of scandals, PR stunts, and last-minute excuses, proving that in Bulgaria, the most important skill in politics is survival, no matter how ridiculous you look doing it.
Но за тези, които биха искали да чуят, да им кажа, чуя ли Congratulations Борисов, не слушам нататък.
Plamen Oresharski, the man who nobody really voted for but somehow ended up running the whole country. A prime minister so unforgettable that even his big scandals had an expiration date shorter than the Bulgarian yogurt. Oresharski wasn't really a leader, he was more like a government intern who accidentally got promoted to CEO. He came to power in 2013, backed by a coalition of BSP and DPS, which meant he was basically a marionette with 2 puppeteers fighting over the strings. His job? Managed a crisis, except his management style was like trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. In just a few weeks, Bulgaria went from mild political instability to a full-scale mass protests, police clashes, and people literally throwing tomatoes at the parliament. If there's one thing Plamen Oresharski will be remembered for, is his scandalous appointment as chairman of the National Security Agency.
Уважаеми дами и господа народни представители, на основание член 8, алинея 1 от Закона за ДАНС предлагам за председател на агенцията да бъде избран господин Дилян Славчев Пеевски.
Десетки хора пострадаха при сблъсъците между протестиращи и полиция. Напрежението ескалира при опита от сградата на Народното събрание с автобус да бъдат изведени министри и депутати.
Dilan Slavchev Peevski's appointment as the head of the National Security Agency, DANS, the moment Bulgarian democracy cracked, as there was an earthquake at the maximum level. Media mogul with more businesses than public appearance was suddenly put in charge of national security. It was basically like hiring a pyromaniac to run the fire department. The result? Mass protests for months, Oresharski forced to withdraw the appointment in record time, his government becoming a living meme. Dilan Peevski is a prominent Bulgarian businessman and politician who has been a controversial figure in Bulgarian politics. After the sanctions were announced, Peevski denied the allegations and stated that he would cooperate with US institutions to clear his name. The Magnitsky sanctions against Peevski were seen by many as a significant development in international efforts to combat corruption in Bulgaria. And unfortunately, to this day, he can be defined as the string puller and the guy who is ruling the country behind the scenes. But we will leave his character for now, as we're going to discuss this in a future video, because pretty much it's a topic as long as the Old Testament of the Bible. Back to Oresharski. A so-called financial expert promised to improve Bulgaria's economy, but his strategy was basically take some bad loans, hope people forget who's in charge. Under his rule, foreign investors ran away faster than the tourists who just realized they took the wrong bus in Sofia. The biggest financial disaster? The collapse of corporate commercial bank KTB, one of the country's largest banks, which magically lost billions in assets, a true Bulgarian vanish act. also quite a big topic which can take place in another future video. After barely surviving a year, Orisharsk finally resigned in 2014, proving that sometimes even the worst TV shows get cancelled before season 2. To this day, his reign is remembered as one of the most pointless and chaotic political experiments in Bulgarian modern history. But hey, at least he wasn't as loud as Borisov, as royal as Saxo-Burgotsky, or as lost as Stanishev. He was just there, like background noise in Bulgaria's never-ending political soap opera. Kirill Petkov, the Harvard-educated reformer who dared to challenge Bulgaria's political dinosaurs and push country toward transparency, accountability, and European integration. His tenure was short-lived, but his impact on Bulgarian politics was undeniable. Petkov entered politics with a bold promise to end corruption, modernize Bulgaria, and bring real change. With his fresh approach, he quickly became a symbol of hope for many who were tired of the same old faces running the countries for decades. His government made, including the arrest of Boyko Borisov, something no other government dared to do. Even though Borisov was released shortly after, it sent a strong message that corruption wouldn't go unpunished, cutting Bulgaria's dependence on Russian gas, proving that country could stand firm against outside pressure, strengthening ties with the EU, making Bulgaria a more serious player in European politics. Of course, no leader is perfect, and Petkov's time in office wasn't without some controversies, but compared to the corruption scandals of previous governments, his were more like political speed bumps rather than full-on crashes. And people apparently have been throwing snowballs at him at our national holiday.
Честит празник, българи!
Yeah. Also, his appointment as economic minister was later ruled unconstitutional because he still held a Canadian citizenship at the time. A bureaucratic oversight, but nothing that suggested actual wrongdoing. He quickly reannounced his foreign citizenship and continued with his reformist agenda. While he managed to improve relations, his handling of the negotiations frustrated both sides. Some felt he was too soft, others thought he wasn't doing enough. A classic case of trying to please everyone and ending up in a political mess. His government was built on a fragile coalition, and disagreements within it led to its downfall in just 6 months. It wasn't a scandal in the traditional sense, but it showed that managing Bulgaria's complex political landscape isn't easy. Even with these issues, Petkov's leadership marked a turning point. He showed that corrupt politicians can be challenged, Bulgaria can be even more independent, and reforms are possible even if they take longer than expected. His government fell too soon, but his influence remains. He proved that Bulgaria can have modern, Western, educated leaders who can genuinely want progress. In a country where politics often feels like a never-ending loop of the same figures, Petkov was a refreshing break from tradition. Whether he's gonna be going back, or that was everything that we've seen so far from Kirill Petkov, we shall wait to see. Nikolai Denkov, the academic-turned-politician who somehow found himself in the middle of Bulgarians' never-ending political soap opera. A chemist by profession, Denkov was supposed to bring stability, logic, and scientific precision to Bulgarian politics. Instead, he quickly learned that Bulgarian governance is like a chemistry experiment and more like an uncontrolled explosion. Denkov wasn't your typical career politician, he was an actual expert in his field, a respected academic, and a former minister of education. He entered politics with a rational reformist mindset, believing that with the right policies, Bulgaria could finally move forward. As prime minister in 2023, he was part of rotating government deal between his party We Continue to Change and Boyko Borisov's GEP. Despite being caught in a political minefield, Denkov managed to focus on actual governance rather than just the political games. His tenure was marked by keeping Bulgaria stable at a time when political instability was the norm, pushing for European integration, particularly regarding Schengen and Eurozone accession, focusing on education reforms, a sector he truly understood and had experience in. Unlike many of his predecessors, Denkov wasn't known for corruption or shady dealings. In fact, he seemed almost too decent for Bulgarian politics. A professor trying to teach calculus to a classroom full of students throwing paper planes at him. Of course, no one in Bulgaria's politics escapes criticism, and Denkov's biggest problem was that he was often seen as a placeholder rather than a true leader. Many believe he was just a temporary figure stuck between PPDB's reformist agenda and Gerev's old-school power plays. His biggest challenges was like coalition tensions, being in a forced marriage with Borisov's Gerev meant constant political bickering, meaning his own party didn't even trust the alliance, limited authority. Unlike more aggressive politicians, Denkov lacked strong public presence, making it easy for opponents to dismiss him as just another temperate PM. While he worked hard to push Bulgaria's European agenda, actual results were slow and frustrating, having in mind Bulgaria was accepted just as a half, traveling freely only by sea levels and air. Denkov wasn't a scandal magnet like other politicians, nor did he engage in power struggles for personal gain. Instead, he was a serious, competent figure trying to bring order in Bulgaria's dysfunctional political landscape. His time as prime minister may not have been the most dramatic in Bulgarian history, but he played a crucial role in keeping the country from completely spiraling into political chaos. Whatever he remains in politics long-term or returns to the world of academia, one thing is certain: Nikolai Denkov was one of the rare Bulgarian leaders who actually tried to govern with logic and expertise rather than just popular slogans. Rostin Zhelaskov, a man who found himself holding the prime minister's seat in Bulgaria's ongoing game of musical chairs. Unlike some of his predecessors, he's not a flashy reformer or an outsider shaking things up. He's a calm, experienced bureaucrat who knows how to navigate the system without making too many waves. Zhelaskov isn't new to policies. He's been around for decades, mostly behind the scenes, handling state administration, infrastructure projects, and regulatory affairs. Before becoming PM, he was Minister of Transport, Information Technology, and the Communications, overseeing big infrastructure projects and EU-funded programs. Chairman of Parliament, meaning he already had a front-row seat to Bulgaria's political chaos, a key figure in Garib's political machinery, making him a trusted name with the establishment. He's not controversial, which in Bulgarian politics is an achievement in itself. While his almost 60 days in office by the time this video is recorded haven't been long enough to define his legacies, his government faces some serious challenges. Political instability, he leads a caretaker government, meaning he has limited power and time to actually implement long-term policies. Eurozone issues, Bulgaria's full integration into the EU remains a delayed dream, and he'll have to work with a European partner to keep the process moving forward. He's a Borisov's man, which means he must navigate party politics, coalition tensions, and opposition attacks while keeping Garib's dominance intact. Zhelaskov is no stranger to controversy, even if he's not the most scandal-ridden politician. 2013 Kostibron affair, he was briefly accused of being involved in an election fraud scandal, though no formal charges were ever brought against him. Transport Ministry criticism. During this time as a transport minister, some EU-funded projects were delayed or overpriced, but nothing compared to the massive corruption scandal of previous administration. At the moment, he hasn't been in power long enough to create major controversies, but Bulgarian politics has a way of catching up with even the cleanest figure. With just a few weeks in office, it's too early to judge whether Rostin Zhelaskov's tenure will be remembered as a stable period or just another short-lived government in Bulgaria's political carousel. If he manages to hold things together, pushes Bulgaria's further toward European integration, and avoid major political crisis, he could be seen as a competent caretaker PM. But if his instability worsens or if new scandal emerge, his time in office will be just another forgettable chapter in Bulgaria's turbulent political history. However, there is a pesky little issue that keeps tripping up these aspirations. Despite the numerous efforts and promises, corruption remains deeply entrenched in various sectors. Former Prime Minister Kirill Petkov, upon taking office in 2021, optimistically proclaimed that Bulgaria would be a different place in 5 years later.
Аз вярвам, че след 4 години България ще бъде едно съвсем различно място.
While some progress has definitely been made, the shadow of corruption still looms large, proving that old habits die hard. And yet, despite everything, I still believe in Bulgaria. I still believe in its people, and most importantly, I believe in the new generation, which I am also a part of. If there's one lesson history has taught us, is that the silence is the greatest enabler of corruptions and disaster. The moment people stop fighting, stop protesting, stop holding their leaders accountable, that's when the bad guys win. We have to stop normalizing things that we all know are wrong but couldn't have enough courage to raise voices. If a political scandal happens and no one reacts, the scandal becomes the new standard and the new normal. That all generations live among this new normal and label it as just, it's not my business or I hardly care. That's how a country slowly loses itself. Protests are powerful. They show that people are watching, people care. If we stay quiet, we're just making their job easier. Young people have access in one of the greatest tools in human history, the internet. Learn, educate yourself, debunk lies on the internet when you see them, because the only simple way to fight manipulation and misinformation is with basic knowledge. This is probably the most important point that I'll make today, and that is vote, vote, vote. Unfortunately, I cannot stress this enough. The only reason corrupt politicians stay in power is because either people don't vote or people vote because they have been paid to. If young people does not participate in elections, guess who does? The same people who keep electing the same old corrupt leaders over and over again. There's a very good quote by a famous Bulgarian satiric called Radoj Ralin, and it says, "When the disgusted don't vote, the disgusting govern." Things don't have to be the way they are. Just because corruption and dysfunction are common doesn't mean they're normal. There are places where politicians are afraid of people, not the other way around. There are places where government works for their citizens, not against them. When you see how things can be done better, you come back home with a new mindset, and the mindset is dangerous for those in power, because suddenly you start demanding more, and you should. You deserve better. This is why I created this channel, not just to talk about problems around the world that I see in an ironic way, but to discuss how to initiate the real change we all seek for. To help people, no matter where they come from, understand how to make their home country a better place in whatever way they see fit. To show that we don't have to accept things the way they are, we can change them. We just simply need to care enough to try. And that's what I hope this video does. I hope it makes you think, I hope it makes you question, and most of all, I hope it makes you act. I'm truly grateful for your time, and I'll see you in the next one.